One I would like to remind all of ourselves to take a moment and cultivate bodhicitta motivation or the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of motivation, we should all participate in this Lamrim teaching on the great stages of path enlightenment that brings together all the essential points of practice.
오, 간sem버 체베 취리다. 데려봐. 활동 점호 각장군이 가동네 마요 뭐지? 안다감들이 가르치기 하잖아. 데리에서기 하다. 가자를 돈덤기 제브라자와데 란주부 코네 흉이 나인가? 란주부 코네 뒤준잡지 야신 뜻송기 하다. 데리기 말에 송기 하다. 데리기 멤버티 컨디리 있잖아. 안다티 콜파베 윤파메 값을이야 아니 비게 가잘 통dom기 잡았자와 망고시 송여래 대도 마세 벨루두게 땅거 포글루두 차차베네 동이 든줄로 소베 값을 가잘 잡았자와 망고 송자 대도 마세 베테네 이베제 이번 아얀데 버레베 어찌기 값이 임베나 딘데기 값이 있나야 흉기 값을라 안데 가잘 잡았자와 망고시 송자 센다 지르바슈에 값이 안 제단 단다디 슈에 참잡을 러본 아야 데베 아니 흉바시지 가잘라 챵브라 자베 흉시지 참베 값이 안티 러본 흉 러본 아야 데베 흉데 조요 말이 단다 데게 하디야스
So we are back to volume number 2 in English translation of Lamrim Chemo, the great treatise on the stage of the path enlightenment by Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa. And so we have been dealing with sections on cultivating vipassana or special insight into the ultimate nature of things, in Tibetan called Thakthong. And so of different key points that we have laid out, the point that we have been discussing for a while deals with identifying what we call objects of negation. What must be negated or refuted, right, in order to, in the bracket, realize emptiness. And just to recapitulate a little bit where we left off last time, if you may, according to some critics, what they assert is this, that it's only Sevatandika Madhyamikins, okay, a sub-school of middle way schools, exclusively use the qualifying term ultimate, Dendam, with regard to the object of negation. Okay? But as we have discussed this, but that is not a feasible assertion. It's not only Sevatandika Madhyamikins, but Pasangika Madhyamikins also use qualifying term ultimate, Dendam, with regard to objects of negation or Gakcha. And so a number of scriptural statements have been quoted to substantiate that point. And one of the scriptures that we have witnessed before is the middle version of Paranjana Paramita Sutra, or the Wisdom Gone Beyond Sutra, where there is a clear mention of the term ultimate. And then we also have seen statements from great Arya Nagarjuna's 70 stanzas on emptiness, and where there is also the mention of the term ultimate. And we have also seen Chandrakirti has done the same thing. So that's where we left off, and we will continue from where we left off last time.
어단티 흉dom디 디네이 마다 마다 폴리샤 부터 폴리타 로봉 아얀데 비숑기 퀴션 바르 가르티니데 데이터 잡도와디 시기서레 가르티기 열었잖아 관계때 대코노 삼바라 삼바 티 테니 아니 봄바다 삼마 다 때네 따고라 잡아 임베 메테나 대착받던 책과 딱 가라 대착보다 책과 그래서 책과 따버린 태기 말이야 승도가 태버린 갈란주로 야 승도가 다디 가르치기 할수기 얘는 안돼 쓰기만도 다 다통도 뒤집어라 봐다 그래서 사포리 히라기 하고야 잡는도 딱가리네 다지 신앙고 가리치 비나야 다지 뒤강기 세 아니 피게지 코란기 인록도 보다 뭐부 춘주시 나이다 전부지 나이다 가리치 인비나야 코란기 지 인록도 보지 간데시 렌도 토메 돌려럽지 간데시는 주주기도 엔틴데 딱김도 보지 쉐바티 세 딱김도 보지 쟤는 바지 코란기 인록도 봐 제바 탐바 대 텐이 선도가다 제바티 대적이었다 디송이 살아봐 제바티 대 가르송이 알던 따데 다 분바다 사마다 때네 다고를 잡아 입에 받아 집중도 붙이는 저 제주도 신앙이 거 가르치 인베이네야 그게 때네 봐 다고를 마도 지그 아니 그게 돈남도 되고 요 말이지 어디선 것도가 때네 다고를 잡아 입에 다디 개대는 근데 아파트 돌로긴 원에 NPH 좀 많이 봐. 신앙업을 탐지, 추 탐지 봐. 때네 딱 봐. 탐지지기 태기 말했지니 시기 유난히 다 된데 생겨 여러 봐. 개대 된데 쓰는 세비 유난히 오나 티 체주감 티 체버 지 봄바 차송세 한다고 제다. 아니 피게 사마 특수세 한다고 되게 계제티 태기 말이 대태분 요 말이스 그 가르치는 피게 때네 딱 담지 돌리지 밑에 쓰기요나 되게 체주 착과도 특부턴도 샤도야 요 말이 가르치는 그 통탐을 두비인데 봐 뜸이 피게 솔리안 뜸이기 아니 피게 요한도 본거야 매버지 두비용이야 될 때인데 대 밑에나 아니 될 때인데 아니 피게 태야요 말이지네 송게스다레스 틱틱
We are in the middle of page 218 where we left off last time. There is like explanation based upon Buddha Palita's commentary on Arya Nagarjuna's fundamental treatise or Mula Madhyamika. And so where we left off last time, let me just read the statement straight from the translation here and then translate the explanation given. So in the middle of the page, it reads, "Thus, with the truth of worldly convention, you say a pot exists and a bamboo mat exists, and with that same conventional sense, you indicate that they are impermanent. The pot broke, and the bamboo mat burnt. When you begin to contemplate reality, pots and bamboo mats are untenable in that they are dependently imputed objects. In that case, how can it be tenable to regard them as broken and burned?" Unquote. So now the explanation given this, although we did talk about this last time also, but again offered as a clarification. By the way, Khensur Rinpoche says, this kind of statement is a very profound statement. It's not easy to interpret and explain that, but he's doing his best from his understanding based upon. When we look at both external and internal things that exist, and we ask ourselves the question, how do they really exist? But if we put it in a very technical way, what is the ultimate mode of existence of everything that exists? External, internal phenomena. And so when we ask that question and investigate the ultimate nature of phenomena, what we come to see and understand that everything exists dependently. everything is dependently existent. We call Tendal in Tibetan or Pratit Samutpat in Sanskrit. Okay? So nothing could exist, independent in and of itself, and that's not in the nature of things. Everything exists dependently. Okay? And so because of that, if we use a pot or a vase, Pumba in Tibetan, translated as pot or vase, yeah, and the Samaza has been translated as a bamboo mat. Okay, let's leave the bamboo mat for a while. Okay, let's deal with the pot first. A pot or a vase exists dependently. That's how it really exists. It does not exist as a fixed entity, independent in and of itself. There is no such pot. Okay? And so that's why the pot is governed by the law of impermanence. It disintegrates. If you drop the pot, it's going to break. Okay? Why it breaks? Because it is composed of many other things. And it shows that it's dependently existent, therefore it can be created and it can go out of existence. Okay? And same with the bamboo mat, that you can produce a bamboo mat. If you don't like it, you can burn it. Okay, it's a burnable. Okay, there's my new English word. So in that conventional sense, everything's working fine. You can create a pot, the pot can exist for a while, then pot can disintegrate, or you drop it and you break it, whatever the case may be. Okay? All of these things is only possible if we understand that all these things exist dependently, okay? Depending upon cause and condition in this particular case. Okay? Hypothetically speaking, that if a pot were to exist in and of itself independently, let's say, okay, let's be a devil's advocate, or maybe we are the real advocate here. A pot, it does not make sense to me that a pot exists dependently. Give me a break. Okay? I think a pot exists independently in and of itself. Okay? That's my premise, that's my assertion. Okay? Deal with me now. Okay? Well, then, how could we explain the different characteristics of the pot? For example, that, it is produced. Okay? If it exists independently, who needs to produce it? Or if it exists independently, how can it disintegrate and you can break the pot? If it exists independently, without depending on anything else, you cannot break that pot. Okay? Should it be the case? So that kind of a notion becomes that a pot can break, that a pot can be created, is an untenable, assertion in that case. Okay? So therefore, if we buy into that assertion that things exist independently in and of themselves, then we really can't talk about breaking a pot, burning the mat, or whatever, as my students love to say. We can't talk about all those things,
라트게 되게 샴데 양데 송도가 현양 티신식방 서바 티신식방 직대기 지대기 군도지 온기 티신식방 아니 피게 되게 대소 티신식방 양에는 대소 시 메다 빠리야 저도 직송도가 딕 that이 단데 공대 아니 품바다 사마 가리는 줄이야 자네 대세버디 대세기베는 세기 말이但是 디신식 받아보지 현양 아니지 디신식 받으니지 이제 대감을 디신식 받으니까 다지 다좀 봐 디신식 받어야 되지 또 남랑 잡으지야 고고야 디신식 받아야 돼 산지엔 잡으지야 고고야 아디 디 고고야로 제대한 안 전부 관계 디스기였다 제 제대한게 탄지 온게 NP게 제 고대에서 양엘이 대소세니 아직 림벤 요아치니 제 메타바지 땡도 와스 디 가르치기였던 리베 요안로와 요버티 돈 담바르 마도버 인상 돈 담바르 마도버 인상 림벤 요안로니 디시바 있네 고디에서 아니 자자 양엘 대소세니 라비안도 와스 다디 간도 라비안도 와 디시바를 잡으러 마도 간도 메치 para와 다 메튼도 다랑하랑도 그 차샤비는 방법 제 마티오니 샤토도 준준시라바다 슈누스가 치바치기라바 드네야 아니 슈누스야 나와 드네야네 저기 다르마타유 경고 전에야지 탄이 주산자부터 가래잖아 돈 담바를 줘비네 텐데 탄이 뒤야 요 말에 그 미답이 인상 림베 긴 요아치니 텐데 탄이 진주 근데 와스 어다티 시사 마슈나 가르쳐 계속 계속 다 총총 세니까 어떻게 세는 데 탄이 되도와 걔들 tangi tong tampara rabuche doli tong tampara rabuche dwe chu jimbe ina an tinde ki tangi de yong to ya yong ma ra was ata de kan su tongjo su yoba tere ja ti 가서 다 대해서 선행자 냥을 대해서 해야 돼 나로 그 된다 통주 수입에다 마 가서 그다 렘바르부터 마 용돼야 되리스
So it further states that from conventional point of view, in terms of worldly conventions, we can talk about many other things, such as we can say a Tathagata, meaning a Buddha enlightened being, has become old. Yeah? The Tibetans, sometimes we use the honorific term Teba. For lack of better words in English, you look distinguished. You know, the straightforward answer is you are damn old. You know, well, he didn't say that, but you know. And then at a certain point of time, a Tathagata, passes away into parinirvana or solitary peace, or you can use any other way. He kicked the bucket. Well, it comes to the same thing. Yeah. So conventionally, all these things are fine. That a Tathagata has been born, a Tathagata has, aged, and a Tathagata finally says goodbye. Yeah, all this makes fine. But if you think a Tathagata could exist independently, non-dependently, if you will, then we really couldn't talk about all these phases of life of Tathagata. A Tathagata has been born, a Tathagata has aged, and a Tathagata is gone now. Yeah, we cannot, because that's not possible. Yeah. Now look at our own lives that we are here. That means we have already been born here, isn't it? Yeah, and we are in whatever stage of life we are. We look at a new birth. Well, there is this kind of a tiny little thing, we call a baby or whatever, right? And then, sudden change happened. Well, now that baby become a toddler, And then we just go a little bit. Well, there's a teenager. Then we become, well, there's a young, adult. Then there's adult. Then there's old, whatever. As life progresses, as you say, as the life undergoes these changes, that we reach different stages of our life. All of these things are possible, and we give different labels, isn't it? Okay, what a cute baby, Oh my gosh, that toddler is, divine, or whatever. Okay, or that, oh my gosh, you got your hands full. I mean, look at these troublemakers here. Whatever, he didn't say those things. So we can express different thoughts and use different labels, right? You're a toddler, you're a baby, toddler, teenager, young adult, old, goodbye, all of that. It's only possible because, things exist dependently. And everything here in this particular case is governed by the law of impermanence. Okay? We have certain characteristics. We could be produced, we could exist, we could be killed or die or destroy, whatever. Okay? All of those things are possible only because things exist dependently.
teacher, tati, teacher, chick teacher, Kasirwal. Tati Shamdi, young can't get ton tamba, somebody, Chenani, teaching by me, Metena, any the table than young Ellen Deva, any pegage, that a table color in Jerusalem as it was, that color. table calling Jerusalem as door. I can't go to heaven like it, Chickbari, Takondo, the Tichipala Jabri, Mato Chiki, Tatati, Kondo Chick, Pumbata Sama, say at the Jab, the Chickbari. Can't get any PH Tontamba, Tontambeto losing it, Candesi, Tendere, some chips of the share you do Vala. I think she was in the carrier, Sabayanachi, Pumbong of Corona, Tatpi, Kibu. 딱비 토네 자지 자와치 통계지 차디가 레스 데스리어바 게디 딘데지 태기 맵이 있나니 게디 틴데지 태기 배비나니 공주가 나신기 디 체바람 디 체주 너버디 아니다 디인식 받고 대샤세야디 간대 용투비리 다가 나신 다 디인식 받 양엘린 대소 세야디 간대 용투비리 시대기 피게지 지 메타 탐목직 시대 거래 띵도 인데신 요디와 데니 데 유비 인다 림베기 요아치네 구디버다 양엘린 대바 딘데 중바리 게디 딘데지 돈 담바 두게 요비 인나니 아니 디 용투비야 마레실 희송소 세다디 로봉 아야데베 부다빨리 타게 아니 피에 통덤 자비 데날 탕바티 티테기 마르티 유지 마르티 데날 탕바티 조버리스.
Of course, whatever examples are used here, they are just examples. We can apply the same idea, analysis, and understanding to all other things that exist. And one of the examples given here we just talked about is about Tathagata, right? Thus one gone beyond. In other words, which is another way of referring to a fully enlightened being, a Buddha. Okay? So when we say, a Tathagata, how does a Tathagata exist? Okay? So we are really asking the question about how could somebody really exist? Now, what is the final nature, so to speak? That's our kind of question. The only way we really understand it is that the Tathagata, like any other phenomenon, is a merely imputed reality, isn't it? Just like when you talk about any person, what is a person? A person is a label imputed onto, a collection of certain physical and mental aggregates. Yeah. Physical and or, because there are some beings with no physical aggregates, so we have to be a little careful here, right? Yeah. So what does that mean? A person exists as a label imputed onto a collection of his or her psychosomatic, physical, mental aggregates. That tells us the dependent nature of a person, isn't it? A person only exists in relation to or in dependence upon certain things, X, Y, Z. Okay? And so that's why it is very possible that that person can undergo changes, right? Can go, from young to old, and then finally old to die. That's all possible. But if a person could exist, let's say, hypothetically speaking, independently in and of himself, herself, okay? There's no need for all this dependency thing, right? Then we really couldn't talk about a person aging, including Tathagata. We cannot say, oh, well, we are really sad now that Tathagata is old, and now we are sad that we really miss Tathagata is gone, and we are left here. No, we can't talk about those things, because that's not, a feasibility. So what we are really talking about is when we look at things that exist in the world, these things are governed by the law of nature called impermanence. And as a matter of fact, the subtle impermanence that everything is undergoing momentary changes or disintegration. Nothing exists fixed even for a second. Everything is momentarily changing. Okay? And the same is true with Tathagata or any other persons, including ourselves.
왜 다디 도체 다디 디스기 요사리다 아니 피게지 각자를 돈dom기 개발자비 흉망고 응원도 선부 대가때 맞게 비치기 양조양 저기 로몬다와 특별 흉내마 각자를 돈dom기 개발자니 송요아리 신 송요산도가 로몬다와 특별 장 덴베 자왕고 바 니지 자와 성고바 멤버 송대 송도가 로몬다와 특별 에니피게데 자와 유메시아티 덴버티비 자와 고프리 마도 찍라 지당기 비지 젠데 지 말리 부자바 있나다 사모는 요 그자바 있나데 디메시는 고고요리 베잖아 딩고고요 말이 송도가 돼 딩고고요 말이 대민국 바데 아니 가리값도 송야르스는 리버투주베 값도 송자스 리버투주베 아니 비에 대베 값 리버투주바도 대임버다 로봉 루두게다 루토툭다 딘 대바티다 반덴다베 리버투주빈 대바 신지 따라와 오 대값도 송자스네 sungu yosares.
So at the bottom of page 218, we have Chandrakirti speaking, okay, on the same issue or the topic. And so this comes from Chandrakirti's commentary on Arya Nagarjuna's 60 reasonings. Okay. And where the focus is on, does production exist or not? And it's a technical term, right? Kyewa. Okay. So does Chandrakirti refute production, or does he accept production exists? Yeah. Well, the answer to that question is Chandrakirti refutes or rejects what is called true production or ultimate production. Okay? The truly existent production, for lack of a really wonderful word in English. At least I don't have it, but so you can give me one. But he does not refute what we call conventional production, reality. In other words, if you ask Chandrakirti, do you accept that the seeds can germinate into sprouts, right? Can seeds produce sprouts? Conventionally speaking, he said yes. He's not refuting that. But what he really refutes is there is no such thing as what we call, Tembekyawa, means true production or intrinsic production or what we call truly existent production. Okay.
Oh yeah. Rikpa tukjibe kapsu kandye sung yoratan, jebe kapsu kandye sung yoratana, namba kandu sungye mikbala tene, ani jeba zumba choba konala mikba pa te majebara kocha memao sin sungdoga. Dati tonda rubuji champa timbuji shubina, karisiki yoratana, namba sukje namba kandu raba, ta suksin ishidoga gansu. Meki tonya yungi ki suksin ishidoga. Suksin de kandir siyansi namba kandu, ta sungye mikbala tene, ani piyechi, jewa zumbara, kona mikba, te majeba memao se ati karisiki yoratana, ta ngazu sukti karisiki yoratana, ngazu chik melon rabu chik nala tawa ti se, melon rabu chik nala ngazu shegu tatu wala, pike ngazu tisiki yorata ngazu di tongpa tala chehin siki yore, chehin. Melon nangke melon ya takpa ta ngazu tongpa ti pike ten melon nang chik sha te ashitowa, tala chehin ki sungyen siki yore, te chehin mare, te sungyen re. ताई चले ताने अने पिएचे अंते मंदी तांटा मेरे चिका चिगिरे बाते चिगा चिगिरे ती तेले ती चिरा यो मारे ती टेंबा मारे ती तुम्बा छादियो रे सुनिये रे मातो चेगले चिजिंगुने ती दिनाल योया यो मारबा अच्छी सुनिये दे से यो रे ओ या तेंदे सुनिये ती तेंदे की मिकबला तेने मेलोन नान ती अने पिएचे 제시 송예들 따니 제시도 비게 제시 말이 제시 말이도 제시 송예들 좀바리 되었다 그러 제시 말해 봐 디날 송예한테 좀바리 되어 좀바 대에 줄바데 코날 맥바지 대 맞게 봐라 엄마한테 코 엄마한테 매마오 딱 간제 너르트는다 제시지 송예 melon 타고 다 그래 제기 야 샤데베 제신지 송예데 melon데 나도 니 깨버리다 말이 있어서나 깨버리 데티나 제신지 송예데 나라 준비고 깨버리 마도 제라 통탐바템바트베 고 제요 말이 제제다 디 melon나기 제신지 송예데 아니 피게데 가서데 송예데 티 melon나 티 송예데 때가 깨버리 세네 티 송고요 살아봐 깨바티 그 엄마바 이나 tindewaate 송예te ati melona mekesken lapke mare ku omaba take memao chene sunguyo sares.
So now Khensur Rinpoche is giving explanation on that passage quoted from Chandrakirti's commentary on Nagarjuna's 60 stanzas of reasoning at the bottom of 218. So what is being stated there is once we stand in front of a clean mirror, right, we're facing the mirror. So what we see is that our face is reflected in the mirror. Yeah? And that looks exactly like our face. Yeah? So what we see in the mirror looks like our face, but it is not our face, isn't it? It's a reflection. That the face is over here, it's not there. What we see there is just a reflection of what's here. It's just simply reflecting in that clear mirror. But it really does appear as real. Yeah? But it's not real. That shows the, for lack of a better word in English, the false nature of that reality, isn't it? That which looks real, but it's not real. Okay? The Tibetan term is called Zunpa. If you say, is that a real face? No. So what is it? It looks like one. Okay? It is a reflection of the face, but it is not the real face. So therefore, that is not the reality. That is just a reflection, and that's what we call Zunpa, okay, false. Okay? And so now if we ask Prasangikas, right, would you assert that if a person stands in front of the mirror, his or her face is really, the reflection is produced in that mirror? Conventionally speaking, yes, right? The Prasangikas is not going to deny that. You stand in front, well, all the conditions has assembled, right? You got a beautiful face, where there's a really clean mirror, and you are just seeing yourself in the mirror, which looks like you, but is that you there? No, you can't fit into the mirror, right? You are here. Okay? So it's see, the reality that looks like you, and you might say, that's me, but really that's not you. That's just your reflection, if you want to be very precise, isn't it? Okay? That's what it is. If you think you are there, boy, check carefully, okay? Can you fit into the mirror now? Well, he didn't say that, but, I have to add some things to make sense here, more sense. And so conventionally speaking, all those things work fine. You stand in front of the mirror is clean, your beautiful face is reflected in the mirror, and that looks like you, and that's all fine. Based upon that reflection, you can do all the cosmetic things on your face, like paint here, paint there, or wipe the thing out, whatever, But everything you're doing looks like you're doing in that mirror, but it's really not. You're doing to your face, isn't it? It looks like you are doing all these cosmetic things, in the mirror, what you see in the mirror, but what you're really doing it to is on your face. Okay? See that? How we get really so bogged down in our deceptive perceptions? Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 잠깐만. 그 엄마가 매마고写了吧? 원자 단위 간도 대충 대 정말 매버 넘버 샤과 진이도 마지버 마오. 다 melonang ge sheqin sungye de jedang jed maji 제베지도 통통버 마지 de din melonang ge sheqin sungye de dene jeskin labraba 통통버 마지 다 din tumbar tinal jeskin labraba jeskin labr이 마도 제게 양제 단위 다 간지 각장도 붙이 좀네 통통버가 란체지 두반도 붙이 좀네 아니 피게지 단위 강도天정한 매벌 때 단위 기피게 란체 두반 통통버도 붙이 매버데 넘버 자과天이도 어디야 마치셔야 돼 어디 마치시기 요마도 제단기 단지 공도 희반 나지기 자와가게 매센데 송구에 살아봐 마치시 마오시 대단히 강도 자와 매버 넘버 어디 마치시 마오시 제 송구도가 어디 송로나.
So as we look at this reflection of our face in the mirror, okay, it exists. It's a reflection. It looks like our real face. Okay, how does it exist? Does it exist ultimately? If we use the term ultimately, it does not. Does it exist conventionally? Yes. So its existence, for lack of a better word in English, is a deceptively existent, isn't it? The deceptive is that it looks like you, but it is not you. It's just your reflection. Okay? So don't get mixed up with the reflection of the reality and the reality as one and the same thing. Okay? They are not one and the same thing. So it's a deceptively existent. The one looks like you, that's not really you. Okay? So Prasangika Madhyamagga would assert that yes, conventionally, that all works fine. You stand in front of the mirror, you reflect in the mirror, you see yourself in the mirror. Okay, that looks like exactly like you. But ultimately, there is no such thing. Ultimately, right, nothing could exist, including the reflection of yourself in the mirror. So therefore, in many Prasangika Madhyamika literatures, where the debate is about production, non-production, whatever, right? Is there such production or not? The Prasangikas are only refuting what is called true production, for lack of a better word in English, right? The truly existent production, but not the conventional production per se, okay? So we have to really make the distinction between, right, the conventional production, that things could be produced conventionally or dependently. That is asserted by Prasangikas, but nothing could be produced in and of itself. There is no intrinsic, inherent, objective, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't throw too many words, you get confused, right? There's no true production. Okay, let's stay with the word true. Okay.
Tenzin Devran Juma, Kelang Bichel, Tendi Keland, you are Tenzin Devachung, Tachim Bushuri, that Tenzin. To Tendi Sin, that Tenzin, Tivatamji, any PH, Java, the Kelang, you are Esigar, Toto Luciana, Kandicina, Chelang, Mobo Kandici, Bina, Tenzin, Tivatamji, Java, the Kelang, you are Mato Chiki, Temperature, Kelang, you are Maris. And Doya Kazu Sumpina, Kanshi, Jenny, Tita, Tem Maki. You might send Sigiari. Kanshik Jenny, Tija, Temper Tube, the Rashi Tube, Tim Maki, Temper Tube, Rashi to Kajaki, Mojava, Twin Namia, your Maris, and Tisungdoa, or Tisungiasaris.
So in that passage quoted from Chandrakirti's commentary on 6 stanzas of reasoning by Ara Nagarjuna, somewhere in the middle, where you read, what is the nature in terms of which we say that it is not produced? A nature that you can clearly hold as truth. Okay, I think sometimes, when we translate like that, it gets a little confusing. Anyway, the explanation given here is, so you ask Chandrakirti or the Prasangikas, what is the nature in terms of which you say that it is not produced? Right? What is it? Okay. So that nature refers to the truly existent nature. I think that should be, rather than say truth, because the truth always confuses us, right, isn't it? Because we believe in truth, right? So not in terms of truly existent nature. That's how it comes in Tibetan, right? Thembardruba, right? Not in terms of truly existent nature. Yeah? Otherwise, conventionally, yes, they do exist. And then the next line, as you can see, when we use like a double negatives or something like that, it always confuses us. It's like, however, it is not that it is not produced as something false. Like speaking English, really. I'm just kidding. My first footnote. Because we do assert that it arises as that dependently. So the explanation given here is that is, Prasangikas or Chandrakirtis assert that things are produced conventionally. Okay? And they are produced more in the sense of deceptive nature. Just going back to our reflection in the face of the mirror. It is produced. It looks like a face, but it's not your real face, isn't it? There's that kind of deceptive nature. That kind of fools you, right? Oh, I'm there. Well, really not, okay? So what that tells us is that everything is dependently existent. The Tibetan term is called tendo, or sometimes we use the word tutup. Tutup means relativity, something that exists in relation to something else, okay? So the term tutup and tendo, dependent arising and relative existence or relativity, what that tells us is that everything that exists relatively or dependently. Okay? So that precludes any true existence, ultimate existence, and intrinsic existence for the Prasangikas, because all of these things mean the same thing to Prasangikas. Okay? So when we assert that things arise dependently, things exist dependently, then there is no possibility to assert that something could exist ultimately in and of itself, okay? Because that just plainly doesn't make sense, okay?
지치가 과도스다야. 좀뱅고 된지도 시송바 따르센도가. 켈랑베셔로 시송바들 주마다부 가서 좀바 주마다부 제와 민국바타 데라와다. 좀바도 마다부 제와 요리타 단지 건데 시험나 시기드네 마 레디 요라와다. 좀바도 마다부 제와 민국 그 말이 고버리. 어르다 민국바타 팅고 그 말이 제라와. 템베 제와랑 고베 다 템버티베 제와 까베 이베 나 아니 가르치기 어렵잖아. 때네 째와다 라시지 마지바니 민게버서 송대. 다더니 게게 말이. 비게지 좀바쯤마다부 째와서 한다고 대다. 지치단 때네 째와. 때네 째와. 때니 되봤담지 때네 째와 생이 찍다. 아니 비게지. 때네 째와다. 아니 라시지 마지바니 버티 게 거야요 말이 송구야더라. 라신 께서나 양 게도라 봐. 라신이 마제번이 때 맹게버 송대스. 맹게버 간데 송으로서나 단다 다와턱비 용 되니 그리고 tuk주변 대바 되니래. 대체를 대더라. 마제바다 제바니 유타대바 니지 체르 편중 개발 갈란주로 해당 세다 대송됐다. 되니래 대체를 대더라. 가지 갈지는 말에다 제바스니 잭시 제바디 가르잖아. 준비 제바가 때니 제바 때니 제바담지 제바 당 란체지 드베 마지바 니티 유타데바 니티 제르 아니 펜중 개바 갈란주로 세대 펜중 개바 갖다 빼는 말로는 주신 따부지 샤베나 가래. 때니 제바담지 제베 제바데 레디어리 란체지 미제와데 코라 레디어리 제다 게고 민두 센 숨고요사레스.
So on the top of page 219, it reads, thus, he does not refute, he meaning Chandrakirti, does not refute production that is false like an illusion. He does refute true production. He says that it's not contradictory to be both produced dependently and not produced intrinsically. That the same text says, therefore, in this way, production and non-production have a different scope. So how can they contradict one another? Unquote. So now the explanation given all of these things is, so Chandrakirti really does not reject or refute what we call, this conventional production, let's say. Production that is false like an illusion. Okay? production that is just like a reflection of the face in the mirror. He does not refute it. What he refutes is truly existent production or intrinsic production, if you will. Okay? And so in his position, these two things that are mentioned here, dependently produced and non-intrinsically produced, they are not mutually exclusive. They are not contradictory to one another. Okay? When they say that something is produced dependently, or that something is not produced intrinsically or independently or truly, these two ideas and notions, they really do not contradict each other. The only way things can contradict, if you assert, while things are produced dependently and they're also produced independently, then you got a problem. Because now, you are asserting two, what called antithetical things, mutually contradictory in one position. That's not possible. If things are produced independently, they shouldn't be produced dependently. If they're produced dependently, they can't be produced independently, So we don't know what you're saying, really. If you say both things are happening, that can't. Yeah? Whereas, things don't exist intrinsically or truly, but yet they are produced dependently. They are complementary. They coexist, if you will. Okay.
어디 관계 테스트 다시 이게 참대가 양측이 다 누가 관계 테 고자게 강 때니 깨와다 띠송년 진도 라신지 마제소 시 메바 디스 고에가 갈라유 송도와 그래서 이어서는 다디 세보 기다리고 돼야 관계 테 고자게 어마버 고자게 갈라 때니 깨봤대 송년 진도 제기리 라신지 마제 시그리스 어야 마제 시그리스 힘마바 디체 엄마바도 보지게 디마바 디체 야 텔라 고와 카시에게 고한다 보지게 텔 좀만다 땅게데 카시에게 고에값 갈아요 근데 제베인다 관계 티치 강에 때니 깨봤다 라신지 마제버니 부텔라 공바도 보지 시시 삼루치 땅기이나 아니 tinde기 쫑줘야게 국갑대 갈아요 말이스 코로나기 공부 마시버 제는 저기 라비 대비나 라비아수이나 요리 디네야 코로나티기 공부를 붙이 시비나 tinde기 아니 가르쳐 왔다 고아티기 쫑줘야게 국갑대 요 말이 갈아요 말이스네 송도가 갈아요지 때네 잡았다 란셰지 마지바님 개바 개바르테벨란도 송소 뚜베이나다 떼베이나 다데 가르체면도다 간제 셰르 마셰나나 다 가르다 때니 깨와다 란신지 마시바지디 이렇게 게기도 띠찌께서도 찌께서도 있다 짠다지 란신도 찌고 요아레 생게기도 다 요아르 같은도 샤비나 다 란신지 마체네 메도 요아르 테야는 근데 셰니 디랜듀에네 송바인 셰네 르바투주비 왜 가서 어딘데 송야스
So we contend that dependently produced things are like reflections not produced intrinsically. As this is the case, how can your objection stand a chance? This is what the Prasangikas are telling their worthy opponents. Okay? So the explanation given on this is, it is perfectly fine to say, we refer to the Prasangikas, that things are not produced intrinsically, but they are produced dependently. Okay, are you with me? Things do not exist intrinsically, or things are not produced intrinsically, but they are produced dependently. Okay, it sounds really confusing. Like in one way, say something is not produced, then you say something is produced. Like what the hell are you talking about? Well, sorry, he didn't say that, but I have to wake you up. So. Well, but those things really are not contradictory. Something that doesn't exist intrinsically, but something is produced dependently. Yeah? And if you really understand this whole notion about lack of intrinsic existence, but dependently existent production, then all the objections that you are raising, really, there is no possibility. There is no space for that. Your objections have no chance to stand. Okay? It's just that you did not think carefully, that's what Sankirtan was telling them, and that you really did not understand our point, so you are making too much noise about this and that, But otherwise, there is no possibility for your objections. But as Khensur Rinpoche mentioned, that in some schools, they think that if something is produced, it must be produced intrinsically. If something is not produced intrinsically, they said it should not be produced at all. Okay? So that is their assertion, isn't it? So therefore, they're like, well, you are saying that something is not produced intrinsically, but then you are saying something is produced dependently. What the hell is this? We just don't get it. Right? Because that's valid from their point of view. They said, for them, if something is not produced intrinsically, it cannot be produced at all. Whereas Prasankika is saying, like, no, but it is produced dependently. Right? So they get totally confused, like overwhelmed, like, I don't know, what are you saying now? Okay? No.
Roti, that is what you be. Panentawe, Tagwe, but to you in the wake of here, that tea, take your money, and Savani, here, song the one day. You ball a chance on the one. Oma Panetawa, Oma Juke, our Garcia, Tejit that are remembered in it, 10 years much in Jire, Jitenti Chas in Sung Chas. The next champion that the Kartunga tea, a Chenang, Mobote, and Pietaba, Rimba, Mobote, Dinam, Pigate, Tomam, Tomani, number Tata is. You do Ranche, can't do the naked Tomani, Ranche, Madu, number Tata, Jiri, Madu, Chigla, Yang, Nara, any Pigate, Ranche, Dubit, Namsha, Yubala, see me ever was over in the Vetana, Maris. Young Yarki Tuesday, Javanda, but going to me, Java, Tindig Namsha, that can you do Ranche, colored duty, any piggy, Tomanipa, Tikasa, oh, Karsata, Ranche, Majivari is. Ranche, Majivari, the tiny Wongi, a tiny Javata, Chachi Grimpati, Shacho is, this one is Rabata. Machiting the Shamte, you get 10 years much in Jitan, Jirik Chas, Jitan, tiny Wongi, Yanchi, Karto, the Chachi, Mebatin, member, Tia, tiny Wongi, Chachi, Jevi, Chachi, Roboti, Shacho is, and Sumbati, Chekcherava. That in the vessel, the Shamte was Majibala, the Konani, Chabra Javatang. Machi say at the Rancham, Tambato one, Tati, Kajani, Tugin, Chuban Golma here in the or tea Chabra Jayaris. Tea Chabra Jayari, Madu Chigitan, Machivaris in Higio Maris and Chiksung Duade, tea Chabra Javatan. Pomson did that tinny to meeting, Chabra Java Teda, and Kajat Tedaki, Chabraki Pumbala Soki China, Yongobonam, tinny to meetings. Can you do never re Matuchin, 10 member Mari, Jidan Rabdu Takra, Yonji Sin, Standati, and Jidangi Tangi Wangi, get a Mecheta, Jetta Shasha, no Tacha, get among Bushivu, can get Karitana, Jidan Tangi Rabdu Takra, human Naking Shacho, is teacher. Tene teaching about Tamje, Carson Tisham the Tawaj door, teaching about Tamji, Jurvena. Moshampo the Tumbra Kalan Jerusalem Sungata. They seem to Anim Shinang over Tamje, Tambaram, Kajati, Tambaram, Tineki, Maduba, over Tamje, Anipi and Juribe, a Tawan in Jaya Meba. Tineki Machin and Jay Tawan in Jaya Meba Ray, Sen, Anipi. Ganji Tenkam, Mosham Puina Jela, Aniti Tawan in Jaya, your Marisi. Yeah, your married Tindig, Tether Penaki Rivetana, Maris, Moshamputa, Tumber 10 euros. He cheated or together.
So in the middle of page 219, there is, first there's a quote by from Chandrakirti's commentary on the middle way, which reads, therefore, through such a process, you should understand that primordially things are not produced in reality, but are produced in the world, unquote. Okay? And so the instrumental word here is primordially. The Tibetan technical term is dhamane. right from the beginning, right from the get-go, if you will. That when the Prasangikas talk about how things are not produced intrinsically or things do not have intrinsic nature, what they mean is right primarily, from primarily, that's how things have been. It's not like, you see, in the beginning, things have not been produced intrinsically, but someone in the middle, something happened, and now things are produced intrinsically. And then something happens, and now things are not produced. It's not like that, Some seasons, maybe in the summer, they are produced intrinsically. In the winter, they are not produced intrinsically. No, it's not like that. From primarily, that's how the things are, They never have intrinsic nature. So therefore, they could not be produced intrinsically. Okay? We're dealing with the Prasangikas right now here, right? So it says things are not produced in reality, which is again confusing. The qualifying term, the ultimate, needs to be applied to that. That means in reality, nothing is produced ultimately or intrinsically or inherently, according to Prasangikas. So all the things that we talk about, conventional things like activities that happen, right? Production is an activity; things are produced. Okay? Disintegration is activity; things are changing, shifting, moving, right? And destruction is an activity; things are, no more. Okay? All of these things are only possible when we think in terms of worldly conventions. In worldly terms and conventions, all these things are possible. Okay? But in terms of ultimate nature, none of this really exists. It's possible. Okay? And so therefore, in the literature, when we think about, how we talk about, let's say, things are produced, things disintegrate, all these different directions exist, east, west, north, south, whatever, all this exists. All of these things are only feasible in terms of worldly conventions. The world means in terms of worldly conventions. Otherwise, intrinsically, no such things really exist as east, west, north, south, and all of that. Okay. And so as Khensur explained, that things do not have intrinsic nature. That is right from primordially. And under all circumstances, good, bad, good, evil, whatever, under all circumstances, things have never existed intrinsically, could never be produced intrinsically, could never go out of existence intrinsically. Intrinsic existence is just impossibility. Okay.
다시 현대 대승도와 티 모션보다 통과 갈란조로 시. 다 지난 게 뭐부 대콘을 매바 타니도 요바라 송배 가잘라 톤담기 캬브라 자와 마인바 자와 마이노 스르다 가잘라 중 공도 상배 경태다 탐제기 NPG 지난 게 뭐부 탐제 템버도 다 가잘라 자르마 타니 매버 송바 레마도 제gle 타니도 요바라 송배 다 중티다 게 NPG 가잘라 톤담기 캬브라 마자와 자와니데 레디오 말에 가잘라 톤담기 캬브라 자니 송요레신 어다지 중추전지 mental mari chulata che shesam tapte kacharan she ungyores.
So in the next quote from Chandrakirti's commentary on the middle way, there's mention of how when we talk about things such as parts exist, so we're talking in terms of worldly conventions. Yes, they do exist conventionally in terms of worldly conventions, but in reality, meaning intrinsically, they don't exist. Okay? So Prasangikas are not saying that nothing exists at all. Everything is just like what we call, the example given, like a son of a barren woman. Son of a barren woman is an example of something that doesn't exist at all, right? If a barren woman gives a birth to a son, well, that's not a barren woman. That's another kind of woman, So Prasangikas are not denying the existence of everything that exists in terms of worldly conventions. As a matter of fact, they assert that. So they are not saying that everything is non-existent, just like a barren woman giving a birth to a child. They're not saying that. They said conventionally, we respect the worldly conventions, we accept they exist, but intrinsically, right, truly, they don't exist.
가서 다지 양 통지를 난게 유나 다다 까마까지도 되면은 현동 수장들이라와 아다 드링다가 샤기니.
So we will stop there today, and we yield to you. The traveling mic is in Kishisetter's hand, And so we will welcome some of your observations, questions, and then we will do our dedication. And we have a prayer request here too. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Rinpoche, you go to the great. I'm sorry.
Is it on?
Thank you very much. You go such a great deal to explain about the production, ultimate production, and conventional. What the purpose? Why do we have to understand that? I mean, we understand, but why do we have to go to such a deep, deep understanding of that?
Sure. 다 가장 애마하게 뒤바다 양조 로접시야. 다 뭐랑 데스도 다 디니 통마데 르무치기 배 거나 갈서로다. 가서다 전담도 끼와 매바다. 로와 다 아니 지된 타니도 뭔데 끼와 유어바다. 다 니네 10스타고 마무스 칸랑 송사로와. 배 딘데기 10사고 마무스 송가 니네 가와토도 여래서로와. 전담도 이끼 유네 유끼메네 메로와 그 타니도 유네 다디 랍 거야죠로와. 야간 요걸로 뭐라 야간 요거도 남았다. 다 10스타고 마무스 10 송가야디 네데 가와토 여래서.
이 가요 말에 디리. 디 내동 전부 시독도 하리스. 동남께 저와 매 근동께 저와 유세야디 아니 그게 내동 전부 시독 하리. 동남께 저와 유신이디 나도 그게 제 나만나 희안 딘두고 요베이나 담바트베 덴디싱이 딘두요. 다 덴디싱이 들어요. 디 아니 그게 디 내가 알아보디 디 현유함 가서 디 매버디 디 좀바디 젠티 마도 비나 코알이야 두두비요 말이 심지어 코알이야 두 마도 비지 아니 되게 고코 아니 가도 당봉 아시잖아 현주지 다긴디 시건라 찾게 봐 소준천다랑 매바이 돌아 년지 줄간 될란 뒤세야나시 아니 가도 담바트비 덴딩교 왕기 착당 요모 현남 젠니 아니 가도 다다 파도인데 코 대야디 덴지 디 옹기 중거리 어때니 디 현유디 요 말이 뗄 밥네 대코는 똥반징이디 뗄 밥 용기래 대밥 용도 봐라 아니 비게지 좀바튼도 디 현유디 까 용기래 대까베 아니 코알이야 드베 탑 유난면나 직 조직 디토네 리용기와레
So really, Khensur, I appreciate your question. The reason why, we just try to crack our kind of a cerebral, this whole thing, dealing with all this, details, that there is no intrinsic production or ultimate production, but there is a conventional production in terms of worldly convention, all of these things. The reason why we are trying to, get into this nitty-gritty, all, fine details, is just because that if we, look at the way things appear to our perceptions, our mind, they appear to exist as if in and of themselves, from their side. And then we wholeheartedly believe in that. We think, well, that's how things appear to me, and that's how it should be, and that's how it is. So as we completely invest our belief in that, that's how things exist, that's what we call grasping at, true existence or intrinsic existence of things. So because of that grasping, all other afflicted emotions, attachment, anger, all those things arise in us. So that's why, if we are wondering how we are still in samsara, although we really want to get out of it, well, that's what it is, And so in order to uproot that, grasping at intrinsic reality, right, we have to understand really things do not exist the way they appear to exist to our perceptions and what we believe it to be the truth of the matter. We are just goofed, actually, here. Okay? So only when we understand that is a disparity between the way things exist, the way we think things exist, then we find this, the key to unlock the mystery, so to speak, and then we are on the way to liberation or nirvana. So that's the whole purpose of discussing all these matters. As Khensur Rinpoche very beautifully quoted Chandakidi's stanza from his memory in the middle, supplement in the middle way, where he says something like, if we look within ourselves or contemplate, first there arises the sense of I, right? I is very important, right? I am the world, I am the universe, okay? And then there is the sense of mine, everything to do with me is really damn important, everybody hooked up to me, related to me, whatever, everybody is important, okay? So because of these two things, we grasp at I, we grasp at mine, right? the whole samsara goes round and round and round in samsara, So samsara is happy, it just keeps going, okay? So now if you want to reverse this whole process, then we really need to understand, how does self exist, okay? And so when we investigate the nature, then we understand the deceptive nature of reality. Things appear to us to exist in one way, but actually they exist in a different way. We just got caught up in the deceptivity of things, we just gooped, So we understand the deceptive nature, so we won't be deceived anymore. We're like, come on, give me a break. I'm an intelligent human being, right? He didn't say that, but throw that one in. So then that's the way to liberation. So that's the purpose. Yeah. Next, give to Latmia, please. The phone, the mic, the phone. Hello.
Thank
Call
you.
me.
Yeah. I'm somewhat confused about this, the reflection in the mirror example,
Yes.
because reflection, it doesn't exist in two senses. It doesn't exist, the reflection. It doesn't exist as a face, and it doesn't exist ultimately.
Okay, but okay. Before
It's
I'm
not a
trying to
fact.
understand you. Okay.
Reflection, yeah.
Okay. So when you say reflection doesn't exist, do you accept that the reflection exists?
In two senses. No, it doesn't exist.
What do you mean
in
two
two
sense?
in two ways. It does. There are two ways in which reflection doesn't exist.
Okay, yes,
ultimately,
yes. Yeah.
ultimately,
I see.
and as a face.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So is its non-existence as a face, is it being used as an example of its ultimate non-existence? Why this example of reflection is given? Is there a deeper significance also
okay,
to it?
thank you. Yeah. I understood your question. Yeah. Quran this is that dana cheshin na sunye pe chawarwa. Peden jardan de yakuchi yangjo kandishi chokajesa. Ta cheshin sunye de le karen sana ko zumba imba ni she ju dosrwa. Zumba che kare se de ko cheshin jinang de go de cheshin marwa sa ko cheshin de na ma de cheshin marwa ko zumba che cha de rwa. Tangana shin ane cheshin di ane ten tambar yo ma resrwa. ten tambar me zumba che cha srwa. 다 쳐서디 배든 간데 저거 어렸어요. 다 최신 관을 차샤나 최신도 나에 최신 많이 배 줌바 찍자로와. 최신 된다면 매버도 줌바 찍자로와. 그래서 다 배도 되니 간데 저거 어디 식세버 스토어 나서고라. 다 최신 요 말을 쓰려 가려와. 다 가와 저거 매주도 가서 최준 요 말을 쓰고 그래. 다 가와를 저거 없어. 자다셔로와.
티 빼자게 알지. 어머 소소소소기 예. temba mebara sineti 카톡 람사지 해줘줘 요 말이 뺄 때네 자고 요래 자주 발라다 엄마 ranju부터 저기 temba mebe 뺄이야 시 나로나기 제신지 좀에 대자 해요 왔다고 있나 탁달을 두드네 봐 담마히 텐주에 야초 그래 가리에서는 되겠다 temba 요 말이 temba mebe 가리에서나 나는 멜론나기 제신지 숨예때 제신나야 이 제신도 밑에버리 멜론나기 제신지 숨예도 나야 제신도 밑에버리 된나지기 밑에버리 아니 가지고 친한도 뭐부 띵돼야 양발도 봐요 말해진 템벨이 작아요 알았어
다 코란 디섬당면서 그래서 이게 코스탄 슈거와 코란 선배는 치신지어로와 다디 최선제 여바 시장 델베 자거로와 코 숙년디 랑시 먼저벌 자거면 치신 코라 최선제 군접도 여바다 자고 근데서 어떤 디네를 섬을 고고면로 자다저로와 치신 동 오마저로와 디 최선제 거면에 저 여바다 저로와 다 비게 나야저로와 디 매베 뺄샤고 근데서 어떤 빼든 근데 저걸 디스거서로와 나
아리리 때 매베 빼다가라디 제신도 남바 예티야 제신도 디 메템버들이 제신사는 아주 동바들어와 이 동바티 안피게 제 남바 예티 디 메템버 뺄지 향이 와리 나는 다외나기 중 나와티 취나기 안피게 취나를 따대디 발라 다외게 오나야 다외 오 마투버티 안피게 제 뺄지 향이 와리
Khensur says the way that example, reflection of a face in the mirror, is used to explain the ultimate nature of things is when we look at this is how different schools of thought use different examples because they think that's the only way. The examples, if we understand it, that makes it easier to understand the real concept because the real concept is very hard to grasp, And so, Seventh Anthaka Madhyam begins also use reflection in the face of the mirror Prasangika usually like to prefer more. They do use that, but they use the coiled rope as a snake. They prefer that better example. But anyway, so in the case of the reflection of a face in the mirror, as we can quite easily understand, that what we see there looks like our face, but it's not our real face. That which appears as a face is not really face, isn't it? So there is a deceptive nature. So in the same way, now things appear to us as truly existent or intrinsically existent, but in reality, they don't exist that way. So that's how the deceptive nature is explained. Yeah.
Examples is used. For example, a reflection in the mirror or not the coil rope. That's a little bit different. But I'm remembering like
Echo.
an echo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does that try to imply that our own mind is involved in that erroneous the appearance of?
Okay. 알코나 디스코를 배나 백하시알 양 아주 탁자 배샤그로 봐 탁자. 그래서 탁자 배듯이 이 배소스를 믹스에 고아르지 여배나서 배나 탁자를 샤면나 소세 파게 gebde gar chu 고인 거로 와. 이나 시 최 탐제고 템벌 진에다 가라서 셈고 그 덴진 고 디날 시부지 가서 그러다 투부로 저 주의대에서 딘데 고den으로 딘데 여러 배서도 배나 탁자를 배샤면나. 나 탁자데 파게 gebde 고추 고거로 와. 이나 시 탁자를 배샤되고 가라다 최 탐제 템벌 나이데 아주 셈고나 덴진 다 랑신서 저 여버선자 디기 고 템벌는 게 얼세 디데 고den으로 데 믹스에 연하면서 배되줘라. 배서서 거다.
요리 배서도 고동시라 요리. 페널티 세 요리다. 찬심 싸 배유지 상가바지 여러봐. 상가바도 마 투발 바사 투발 사주 여러봐. 사주도 림지 조기는 초년반이 주의권 주고 인식 요리. 대주도 가르쳐서는 따다 야구지 대매다 mellam 교마 제신 송에 안에 다지는 지식이야 다 백하실 티샤가 요래 까마라리 마메다 교마 서버 추부다 멜럼로단 데이터부 늦게 주는 데들 다 세네 나제는 다디 백중이 가르식 백티게디 샤가 요래 더또 관계 밑에 배려 작자된 가라도 파 게스 잡이나 된나 시기 뒤 안에 때기 와라 봐 때기 와라 데 랑소소기 피게지 가서 템바도 붙이 랑스도 게 당러부진 피게지 템베기 남진들 했는데 그 리디오 말이스 나로나 지신 찍바리 두도 관계 가르쳐 그랬다 밑에 배 망보샤요 아리스 근데 손이 오바도 완도 소화 추위 주고 리히 미주다 보데 넘버 해봐 주마다 아니 가서 니메니 까테도 지잖아 팀이지 때문에 초지 담에 땡기리 있잖아 너 뒤부터 땡기리 있잖아 되게 빨리 어디 손이 오바도 완다 기속이 되네마 난 밑에 배 가서 땡기 와리
Yes, Khensur says that, yes, in the Buddhist literatures dealing with the ultimate nature of things, many different examples are used, and maybe they could be correlated to, for example, Bodhisattvas on the 10 grounds, right? From the first ground to the 10th ground. They're all Bodhisattvas, but they're on different levels in realization, so they might use different examples to explain their insight into the reality of things. So therefore, there's something like 10 different examples given, which includes the reflection in the face, like a dream, like an illusion, like the water bursting out, like the echo, all those things. So going back to what you said, the echo really shows our involvement, right? We make a noise, then we hear it back. So maybe in the same way, that gives a sense that we project, right, this fabricated reality, and then we hear it back, so to speak, right, visually. So maybe that gives us that better sense. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we will stop there today, if you will. And I have a prayer request. Help me to say the last name. Rachel, what? Chacon. Okay, Rachel Chacon is in ICU. She's a sister of Rebecca, right? Many of you know Rebecca, so please say prayers for her. These two men come now on Asa. Yamang as you do in Rebecca Sangenji. The Punjab Homo Sarawa. Maming la Rachel, Kakon Samo, the Zarak Mangana Yosarawa. The two men come now on Asa. That is a money donation. Sao đông go lên về về vô trên đó kia vào sang bờ sang chế đó càng là càng đến thế là thế đó bảo chân bảo chế đấy là sao chứ đồ mà này bên Omane beme ho gyawa di nyodo da chere sewan rojo ne rowa cheja mal he salam go barasho kange lodo tenye tenda nyinda namda rasebe jinye dongun jishin seche nije togara leban kanda sebe sunrar mare mendon dongne gise rozo kunla poje taze yanla roju yanden roda chedo nyemo nilo leje chado chunze mare mense dongne nyogo chenye chunze rade na dene daje saju da yenden lunzo yase tubu gu chuda
choda chunye je nalo meze
jambe
yanla
omara na Omara Baza Zenden Juje Kenra Vese Jen Dalu Temo Mimba Rasene Kada Den Lode Ba Nawan Zendo Zon Denba Nyame Denjo Sezanze Lojo Tome Pendo Chuden Shan Dibam Kara Yarje Zomba Yende Gele Zebe Bedo Zo Changju Ningbo Chebe Shon Nanda Sudim Sunje Ledanje Namjang Choje Nyamdo Chebe Pande Lame Shala Su Chudu Chebe Keda Ledamde Nyamda Drugun Drobe Simji Sawa Rinye Nenjo La Chebe Losan Yangden Bebe Bedo Ningma Maye Rangda Chede Yegu Mise Dongwan Digon La Geden Beze Guzo Shebe Yangde Sena Bezo Quick written prayer. Those who live in samsara are the prisoners of ignorance, afflicted by the darkness of suffering. Looking after all sentient beings with compassion, like a mother looking after an only child, you have a melodious voice of 60 tone. Roaring like a dragon, you wake people from the sleep of conflicting emotions, freeing one from the iron shackles of karma. Dispelling the darkness of their ignorance, thus you wield the sword which cuts down the shoots of suffering. Primordially pure, having reached the 10th Bodhisattva level, the perfect body of highest qualities, the foremost son of the Buddhas, adorned with 112 ornaments, major and minor physical perfections of a Buddha, I bow down to you, Manjushri. Please dispel the darkness of my mind. Om Arabhazanadi. I beseech you with the loving kindness of your omniscient light rays to completely dispel the dark ignorance of my mind, thus giving me the intellectual courage and intelligence to understand the teachings of the Buddha, the elucidating treatises and commentary. O fearless Savior and Supreme Teacher Shuddhodana's son, all the 17 masters and adepts, Nagarjuna and the Sangha and so on, O Dibamkar as well as Sovereign Father Tsongkhapa, gloriously appeared here today to grant auspiciousness. On the great path leading to the heart of enlightenment, you have traversed by means of the perfect threefold discipline, and have enhanced ever higher the realizations of the enlightened qualities. O glorious Guru, we offer our supplications at your feet. Pray return gloriously to propagate the teaching of Lobsang, by tying well the sacred monastic disciplinary precepts, and generating the altruistic intention to free all beings, engage in the tantric yogas of the two stages. Think of the unbearable pain of the sentient being, who are enveloped in the forces of the five degenerations, and to open wide the lotus grove of the Buddha's teachings. May your reincarnation appear soon as a source of merit for us.
Nam mô Vô Song Cứu Độ Chí Tôn Bổn Sư Tịnh Phạm Thái Tử. Nam mô 17 cao tổ chư hiền thánh tăng long thọ vô trước. Nam mô Ni Pha Ca cùng đông cấp ha tôn vương cửu phụ. Quang lâm đương chốn hiện tại hiện tiền ban truyền quốc hiệu. Thiên thang đạo lộ trực chỉ chân tâm kiến tánh đẳng giác. Ngài đã siêu vượt cho nghiêm túc chứa ba tạng giới luật, rồi lại phát huy bay bổng tuyệt vời bồ đề hạnh chứng. Tôn sư quang vinh tứ chúng thỉnh cầu gõ sen lễ lại, xin mau trở lại quang huy truyền bá giáo pháp lô sang. Văn sư thắt chặt đai giới nguyên minh thiền môn tự viện, rồi lại khởi tâm từ bi đại nguyện giải thoát chúng sanh. Tinh chuyên hành trì du già mật định nhị phần chứng đắc, xin luôn thương tưởng thống khổ bất tham ba cõi hữu tình. Hương vị bao phủ trao đạo vô nuôi mãnh lực vũ trường, đưa tay rộng mở bát ngát vườn sen giáo lý Phật Đà. Xin mau tái sanh nhanh chóng hiện hành vớt nguồn tứ chúng.
Before we do the dedication, I have an announcement to make that Ganden Sharje, our two monks, are all here. As I understand it, they have successfully completed their long tour. And so they are returning back to India on August 27th. Well, I'm 1 month ahead. If you would like to talk to them or you want to make gifts to them, I'm just announcing it. Okay, they have worked really hard. There are 1,000 mouths to feed, and there are only 5 monks working hard to feed them. So there goes the story. Okay. So with that, let's do the dedication prayers. Chanjo senjo Rinpoche maje banan jejo je keba nyamba meba yang kone kondo harijo tonyi dawa Rinpoche maje banan jejo je keba nyamba meba yang kone kondo harijo sa je be je ju je me do zhang ri rang ni je ni de jian ba je shin do me de we wa ye do we je wa jo ka re ra we go we xin gan de ben dong de wo ma le jong be ne xie le se wa jin jin jia zo ye sha be se de ba ten ju ji ye dong gu ru ra na man de. So monks are returning this month 27, not September. So erase that, delete button. So this month.